with current organizations, I think we should stop the lies. Stop lying.
Yes.
Stop pretending that psychological safety and no layoffs go together. You can have a psychological safe organization, which means I may come into your office tomorrow and say, we've had to eliminate your job. So don't use psychological safety as a crutch to say,
No.
because that's a lie. Because we don't know. We just don't know. No CEO today knows enough to be able to plan for what that's going to look like. Hey, hi, Dave. How are you?
How are you, Lorne? Good to see you, my friend.
Welcome back to Culture Talks, everybody. And here with my dear friend and colleague, Dave McCauley. How was the 4th, Davey?
It was nice and quiet. We just hung out here, made sure the dog didn't have too much upset with the fireworks, but it was quiet and nice. We just stayed home, ate. What'd you do?
Yeah. What do you have? You a burger guy or a steak guy on July 4th, or a hot dog guy, or what do you do?
So we have a saying at our house. I like either, so I'll take all three. So I like burgers, I like hot dogs, and I always make sure that I get at least one. Well, it'd be rude not to sample everything.
You've got to do that.
It'd be rude. So
okay, are you a mustard guy or a relish guy or a like a hot sauce guy or all of the above?
Well, on a hot dog, it is it's immoral to put ketchup on a hot dog. Just FYI. So.
I might agree with you. I don't see ketchup on a hot dog.
No, mustard on a hot dog. Steak, it's got to be a good steak. So every once in a while, maybe a little barbecue sauce, a little steak sauce. And on the burger, it depends. The one thing I do like though, I like mayonnaise with fries. If you're going to have French fries, I like mayonnaise with my fries.
You know, I like relish on my dog and sauerkraut on my dog.
Okay, I'll take sauerkraut, yes.
But I'm a little suspicious of the relish. I'm always a little anxious with the relish. You know, like when I've gone to Costco and I see the big thing of relish,
yeah,
I'm a bit like it sets itself up for some conspiracy of some sort, right?
Yeah,
don't you think?
But public stuff like that, like relish and mustard, you got to be a little dubious about those things because you have to squeeze it first to get the chunk out that's like dried up, and then
I know, or it's like or the watery stuff.
The watery stuff on the relish. Yeah, the first time at Costco when you push it down, it's just water, and then then the relish.
You don't put that $1.49 dog
your
on
hard-earned cash on that $1.49.
That exactly
price, by the way.
Me too. I love Costco.
I've done that though, where you push it down and you're not paying attention, and it just gets then your bun is like really liquid. Well,
no, that just. Yeah. And do you want to go back in the line at Costco? No. So, hey, like a question around, are you watching the World Cup? Are you watching FIFA?
We're watching off and on some things. Like we watched Norway because my wife's family is Norwegian, and we watch the USA, of course, because America. And let's see, what else? I watched Sweden. I watched Congo and England. That was a great game.
Yeah.
But that's about not like
Canada went nuts, right? Because we haven't really progressed. Hockey country, ice hockey country hasn't progressed that far.
Soccer's just hockey on grass, right?
It's kind of becoming that way, and it was people went nuts here in Canada. Because Canadians have never really won a game before, so they advanced into the final 16. They outplayed Morocco, but Morocco was just better at finishing, right? But they outplayed. But I was curious around how you felt. Have you been following the Balogun situation where he got red carded?
No, but my wife was following it because she's like, if you broke the rule and the rule is this, then you shouldn't call your president and get the rule changed or whatever.
That's the interesting kind of thing, right? I'm just curious around, kind of leads into a little bit what we're going to talk about in our podcast in a weird kind of way, but so Balogun gets red carded, and he was really classy about it, from what I understand. Right, he shook the referee's hand.
Yep.
No whining and complaining. Didn't agree with the call. A lot of people didn't. But then, of course, there's all this been made about Trump and the president of FIFA being really good buddies. Trump calls them, and now they reinstate. And now the question is, if you're looking at it from a selfish U.S. point of view. Is it a good thing or not a good thing in some ways? Because there's an argument that goes, if they beat Belgium now, after this kind of hand going in there and reinstating, it diminishes the thing, and it kind of makes it look like, well, there are other people got red carded and nothing got reinstated, right?
Yeah, but yes. And I imagine this is not the only time a leader of a country has stepped into something like the Olympics or World Cup and said, hey, just make sure this guy's on the field or just make sure this guy's on the pitch. I don't think it's right. I think the rules are the rules and you agree to those rules and you got to let the refs ref the game. So I don't think they should allow that kind of stepping in, but it's like doping in cycling, right? That the only people who get caught are the ones who are bad at it. And so I imagine it's probably happened in
Probably has. It just doesn't feel. I don't know. It kind of to me.
it diminishes the game though, because
It does. It does. It's not, I mean, the question of here's the precedent it sets. If it happens again,
oh,
and it, like, what do you do? Like, if you're the president of the country, next time it's played in your country, and you're one of your guys get red carded, what do what's the expectation, right? You better go in there and if you don't have this, you don't have the ability to the power with FIFA like obviously Trump has. But anyway, it's an interesting dilemma.
yeah, I wish he'd step in for my Mets, the New York Mets. They're playing terribly this year, and I wish he'd step in there just to help the Mets out. But not that I'm biased, but
God, you must have been excited for the Knicks, though. Anyway, we'll go.
Oh,
There
all my relatives were texting me. They were like, "Yes, the Knicks won. This is great." It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank goodness we have some of those crazy sports distractions to keep us from.
It's like the Roman games, right? Keep us
Yeah,
distracted over here with the sport. What I'm loving about World Cup though is all of that stuff that's coming up from other people who are coming from other countries going, the US isn't that bad and your food's really good and ranch dressing and they're going to like Buc-ee's and they're going to like In-N-Out Burger and they're
Yeah.
going to just these places and meeting real Americans and I'm kind of enjoying those little reels and TikToks about, "Oh, you got to eat at this place. This is amazing and free refills on your Coke and that kind of thing." So
Yeah, I think
enjoying
that
that.
is a positive thing. Spent a month in Europe, as you know, and you have no idea how pissed off the Europeans are at America. I'm talking about pissed off, like everybody.
Yeah.
Like they're just absolutely. So a little bit of this, hey, Seattle's kind of cool,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not so bad, and Americans are not so bad, and being able to
We need
to
it.
be sort of separate the political issues from the experience of what it is to be in the country I think is a good
We
thing.
need it. There's this Japanese guy I started following, and he writes the most beautiful love poem about Krispy Kreme. I mean, it is just this beautifully written, like a romance novel, 50 Shades of Krispy Kreme. I mean, it was just gorgeous, and I'm enjoying stuff like that, where they're kind of like,
That is
I must
hilarious.
I must obey the hot now beacon. It is calling to me, it's very cool. I like that.
Well, I tell you, I think In-N-Out Burger can bring all people together across the world. So
As it should be.
as it should be, yeah. Hey, I want to talk to you about. It's a big word, and you and I shared two articles, one from HBR, one from McKinsey, on this notion of transformation is no longer so much a something with that is a big singular event
Yeah.
as much as it is now becoming the way we work, the way we must work. Like, I mean, there are still big projects that need to have transformation definition to it and probably people that are assigned to them and that kind of stuff. But so much of, quote, transformation now is having a practice to navigate uncertainty. And I wanted to just get your reaction to that, to those two articles and how they struck you and what the lessons learned might be for our audience.
So those were really good because they looked at it with some degree of rigor around, what is transformation and then what are the characteristics of transformation. But I think that part of transformation, if you just roll out, we're going to do a transformation, it scares the crap out of some people. For other people, it sounds like, here we go again, this is going to be some fly
Yeah.
by night BS game. And then some
Yeah.
people, it'll really excite and
Yeah.
go, okay, finally we're going to change some things.
Yeah.
And so you're usually dealing with at least three of those constituencies. I thought it was really good because when I think about transformation, I work out a lot, lift a lot of weights, work with people who work out, coach folks, and a lot of the talk about transformation, the thing that really struck home for me was consistency, right? And so the notion that transformation isn't a destination, it's a process.
Right.
And that in learning to institutionalize that process is something that has to be purposeful and something that has to be directional, but you have to be careful about, and here's what it's going to look like when we get to the end. Because many times there is no end, or you really don't know what that end is going to look like, but it's going to be different than it is today.
So I'm interested in your thinking on this because you know, in the private equity world that you live in, and you're often interviewing executives and CEOs, and let's say that you take a private equity position and you're going to bring in a new CEO, and it requires, frankly, transformation of that organization. How do you find out, what kind of questions do you ask that potential candidate around how they deal with transformation? How do you discover whether that CEO or potential CEO has got a practice around it, a mental mindset?
Yeah, that's a tough question because we haven't been great at it all the time. One of the benefits of being private equity is once you're either acquired by private equity or you're, say, a CEO or some other C-suite executive we're bringing in, by default, you know something's going to change, right? You know, we typically don't acquire companies that are super healthy and super great. There's going to be some degree of change. And so we sort of have, right, wrong, or otherwise, it's kind of an advantage when it comes to talking about transformation because most folks know something's going to change.
Right.
And so in assessing leadership and leadership characteristics, what we look for are, you know, a track record and a history of we were here and I brought my organization to here.
Right.
And then we dig into how did you do that? How did you bring your frontline folks?
Right.
You know, you're looking for a track record, but what I'm looking for is a methodology or a framework within which they approach that idea of changing things. And then I want to dig into their communication because one thing that is key in any transformation, even if it's post-acquisition, you want to the phrase over communicate, but you can't communicate too much. You have to let folks know here's kind of directionally where we think we want to go and here's how we want to get there, but we're going to need your help in getting through those stages and through that process.
The lessons that has emerged for me, and it kind of comes out a little bit out of the HBR article, a little bit out of the McKinsey one too, but because they did a lot of research behind this, right? But mine is mostly scar tissue in my head. But one of the things, you know, that is easier to do in some ways is to get people to kind of get a picture of what they would like to become. Like, you know, right. That's an easier kind of practice. We've been working on, quote, vision for considerable time. Any half decent leader has the ability at least communicate some level of a desired future state.
Yeah, here's who we want to be. Here's who we're.
And it looks like this, and you engage it, and that's where part of the engagement, the communication, and involvement comes in. I think one of the areas that we don't pay enough attention to is and we're underwhelmed is why. Like, I mean, if people just need to know why. Like, and it's not a throwaway. It's not like, well, to be more competitive. I mean, that's part of it. Or to be more to survive. Well, that's got fear attached to it, and that's useful.
Yeah.
But it has got to be something much more resonating so people can go, hell yeah, we have to do this. It's not just an inspirational activity.
It's got to be aspirational both at the organizational level and at the individual level.
Exactly.
Say what you will about Elon Musk, and there's a lot of things that, you know, I don't think I agree with, but he's been able to garner some of the smartest engineers and software developers and just smart people around that vision of we're going to leave this planet and we're going to go to Mars. I was raised in the 60s and 70s, so I'm much younger than you, Lorne. And that was the whole time we're going to the moon. And I was so excited about going to the moon and NASA. And I remember watching it on TV like, holy cow, how did that sort of... I wanted to be an astronaut, but I can't see very well. And so that was off the table. But
just as an aside, I have a colleague who runs a company out of Seattle, and he owns the URL fuckmars.com because he's so pissed off that Musk is putting his attention towards going. And we'll leave you suckers behind. That's a whole separate issue. But anyway, but you're right about
I'm going to make a mess and I'm going to leave it for you to clean up. I'm going out. You guys clean up.
But me and all these smart guys are going to leave you. But I agree, though. He has been able to get really, really top-notch talent. Excited about that, working on that, and yeah, no, but I think that the other thing I wanted to run this by you around, I was struck by one thing about the McKinsey article because they use words like decisive speed, resilience, and I'm going, well, there's nothing new about those words.
No.
But the one thing about the research around resilience that was new for me in some ways was continuous adaptability without losing momentum.
Yes.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting definition that was insightful for me. I mean, what's your reaction to that?
So I took from that you kind of have to teach the organization to behave that way, right? And so that sort of continuous approach to adaptation can be little bitty things, small things like I'm using AI to run this report, and you celebrate those little successes because the goal is to garner some momentum, demonstrate some organizational award for or recognition for that kind of small victories and small wins. Like when I'm working with somebody to go to the gym, just put your shoes out the night before and just drive to the gym. Maybe that's the first step you need. If you're starting from a place of inertia where we acquired a company where folks thought they were great. Everything's fine. My paycheck keeps coming and it keeps clearing. What they didn't know was they were about 2 months away from that paycheck never showing up again. So you've got to make sure that communication's open and understanding of the actual situation is, but also that we're going to move towards this greater objective that's going to be better for all of us, more challenging for all of us, more interesting for all of us, and position us better for long-term, not just viability and survival, because that's just table stakes, right? I want to do something excellent. I want to be part of something that's bigger than myself, right? And so I think that's, you kind of start small, you move ahead, but once you start getting that flywheel going, what I've seen is it becomes organizationally something that just happens, right? Folks start picking it up, and
I agree.
And it helps in your hiring too, because very quickly you can see who's going to be a great fit for that flywheel that's now spinning, and who's not. And if you're not a good fit for that flywheel, it'll shoot you off. I mean, it will. It'll stop that. So
I
love your. I answered your question, Lorne.
You did. I love your metaphor, Dave, around from what you get out of helping people that are going to the gym, for example. Get the shoes out. Small wins all the time, and create this flywheel effect. The other part of it is, I think, my observation around this ongoing of continuous adaptability and continuous transformation, which is the way I think organizations have to think and continue managing through continuous uncertainty, is that the two sides of the coin, the sort of the whole formal leadership side and the non-formal leadership side. On the student body side, as it were, is that when people go and have the mindset that they are not going to wait, that they are going to be part of it, that they have some responsibility around participating as well. I mean, that's a mindset thing, because it's so easy to go, well, we've got the transformation project out there and I'm going to wait for, and so
my boss tells me, what am I supposed to do?
Exactly. There's that kind of it. And then on the flip side, on the formal leadership side, what I've often seen is kind of get in the way is the spirit is right. So in other words, we'll hire a chief transformation officer, which often gives the CEO and the other executive sort of somehow this unconscious license that it's those guys that need to lead it, and I don't need to model it. I don't need to be part of it.
And if it goes wrong, I know whose fault it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those are traps that organization. I mean, I do this speech that I give around the leader in the mirror, and because so often it's just classic. We've hired McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group or Deloitte or you name it. So we've got our top-notch consultant. We've got up-and-coming Mary or, you name it, who's the head of transformation. And now we're good. And we got a project plan. And man, we got more charts and Gantt charts and stuff. And, 6 months in, it just runs into the brick or concrete wall. And I think those are setups because everybody's waiting around to get the direction, and then leaders that should be modeling it are waiting for those guys over there. It's like if you wanted to be sure you weren't innovation for a while, have a chief innovation officer.
That'll kill the innovation.
Yeah. And I learned that when I was the executive VP of total quality. I mean, I know. I mean, for a Fortune 50 company. I mean, so I learned this trap because I was Mr. Quality, which also became a whole reason for a lot of people not to be.
Oh yeah.
And
It's well,
and
you've got quality. I can go do whatever I want. You're
yeah,
the
no,
quality guy. Yeah. So
exactly.
we run into that a lot. What we run into is you start to see the folks on the front line still behave. It's usually the mid management and leadership where you really have to. They need to embrace change by allowing their folks to make decisions. Because if I have to bring my stuff to you and then you've got to go to Garrett and then
Yeah,
just to get the authority and the ability to make a decision or make a call or to do something different, that then not only do you have to have a direction and you have to have a desire to change and you have to have a reason to change because we're going to go out of business, but you have to look at the processes that are associated with how the business genuinely operates, and you have to look for areas of bottlenecks or approvals or where you allow having those things happen, because that's where I've seen those things slow down, is not the desire on the front line and not the initiative set at the executive level. It's in the middle where, well, you didn't run
yeah,
that by me. You gotta, and I'm a big advocate for situational leadership. So whoever is the person that has the best experience, like if you've got a customer support manager who is just kicking butt and she knows what to do and she's fantastic, and I'm thinking of a person right now, she is fantastic, but she had no authority to make decisions. She'd go, well, I would recommend we do this, but I'm waiting on so and so to make a decision. And when you create those speed bumps, you actually stop the movement. You
yeah, you do.
stop things from moving forward.
When right now I'm working with a large organization on it's a worldwide organization, and one of the questions we're asking everybody through this process is, if there was one pebble in your shoe that you would like to get rid of, what would it be? Overwhelmingly, it's the ability to have more autonomy to get to take a decision to get stuff done.
Yes.
People are just get worn out about just the negative friction to do anything.
Oh yeah.
And I see that in every kind of organization, small little companies. I know a guy who's running a little cannabis company here in Edmonton. It's the number one thing is that it takes too long for people to make a decision, right? And he's trying to guard against that all the time. And he's a small little guy. He's got 70 people. This has got like 25,000. It's you've got to fight against it and give people, like you say, the ability to kind of cut through some of that negative friction.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they want to take that pebble out of their shoe and throw it at their boss. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, they do.
that's a
Hey, Dave, this leads to we're gonna. So I think, okay, let's give companies that are really good at continuous transformation. What characteristics do they have that they would get? They would like. We can't give anybody a really good perfect rating, right? The best we can do is get like a good over a 4, right? But like let's get the 4+. What are they good at in terms of continuous, successful, relentless, successful transformation?
so one thing I've seen that they're good at is in weightlifting, it's called progressive overload, but it is recognizing the capacity that you're at now and continuously seeing where could we get more? Where could we do more? Where could we
Right.
get some greater acceleration? And so I really like companies that are not happy with where they are. The other thing I'll say is organizations are able to continue that momentum on transformation if they make sure that their folks have a chance to also rest. Because I'm not performing at my best if I'm constantly trying to perform. Like
100%. I agree.
about the World Cup, right? We talked about the World Cup. Those guys aren't training up until the minute that the clock starts and then the game starts. There's always these cycles, and you as the leader have to make sure that you're going, okay, you've been in the office, and I've done this. You've been in the office 18, 19 hours. You need to go home and at least take a shower
Right.
and clear your head and clear what's going on. You need like some sort of active recovery. Go read a book or go move forward in that. So I keep coming
Yeah,
back to that.
like you can't be in a performance zone all the time. You have to go rest because you're going to burn yourself out. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But good organizations are really good. So my checklist is that one, it's that everybody has a growth and disruptive mindset, top to bottom. Everybody. and
Yes.
that you're never, and it's kind of what you just mentioned. What's that fancy weightlifting term?
Progressive overload.
Yeah, and I think you're never done. You're always looking to get better. So, like one of the things that the great coaches like John Wooden, for those people that are can remember, decades before they were born, but it was always about getting better. It was never always about just winning. It was always about getting better.
Yeah.
So the really, really good organizations with growth and disruptive mindset, it's always about getting better. Everybody, top to bottom, and I mean everybody. That the people that arrive at quote the top floor still considers themselves to be naive students about getting better.
Yes, yes.
And then it's a continuous why coupled with the momentum about not the resilience not to lose momentum towards a desired future state, with baking in that recognize that sometimes the organization needs to rest for a bit too.
Yes.
You just need to take a deep breath. But it's a practice of navigate and giving confidence of people through uncertainty. And I want to, so that's kind of my
That's 100% key. That when you say to folks, we're going to transform, and then then potentially there's a little bit of fear because the competition's going to eat our lunch or people are going faster than us. You have to overcompensate on that kind of communication, that kind of engagement, that kind of transparency for what's really going on. And you also have to celebrate the stuff that we're great at. Here's the stuff that we're really great at. One thing I wanted to say though, Lorne, is there's some company that I'm working with. I'm going to Vegas this week, and one of the things I've been trying to crystallize in my mind, not like the company values, because those things typically sound like BS, but the thing that I'm looking at behaviorally inside that organization that makes me think and realize these folks really are primed for, we've been transforming, we're continuing to transform and creating that flywheel. And it is almost across the board in the organization. There's something that I wrote down as initiative beyond expectation. So you got your expectations, but people are taking the initiative to go above those expectations to continue to improve what they're doing. How could I do this differently without their boss saying, okay, next month you got to do these 3 things, but they're taking it upon themselves to take the initiative to go beyond the expectations, not acted upon by a force, but just that sort of sense of, I know I can do this better, so I'm going to do it better this way, or I'm going to do it differently this way. That's something that I see inside this organization that tells me, yes, they're still moving down that pathway of transformation and continuing. That transformation isn't a destination; it's an ongoing subset of
exactly
how we behave.
Yeah. Now here's where I want to throw a bit of scalding water on the topic for a little bit, and that is that
you go.
Is that as human beings we've got obligations, right? And so I've got this weird kind of thing. Most of us do, right? Most of us don't have a trust fund, right? But you've got this obligation to go, shit, I got kids, I got a mortgage, or I got whatever my obligations are, right? And now I'm working for this organization. I'm working for this really cool guy, McCauley, who tells me we've got to transform and we're going to change, and we've got an uncertainty practice and we're going to do it. But I know that, we're embracing AI or we're doing this, and I know that my job could be at risk. And he's asking me to participate in doing something that may change what I know I'm good at right now, but I may lose my job. And I know the stories. I know the stories about I could wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden I can't get in my system. And I know what that means. It means that I've got an X message in my thing or a T message that I'm laid off. And so how do we deal with uncertainty and get people to really actively participate and recognize that we're asking them to potentially participate in the elimination of the way work's being done, perhaps even their jobs. So how do we do that with responsibility and grace and elegance and respect? But also we've got responsibilities to keep the organization going. And we know we got to do it, right? Dave, you and I have both been there. We're running a company. You got to do it, because if you don't do it, you just are going to lose the business.
Yeah.
So how do we do that in a more considerate way than we've done it in the past? I have some thoughts, but I want to get yours.
Yeah, sure. Throw it to me first.
I do. Yeah, I do.
I think it's always built on honesty at the individual level, and when there are those like your direct reports and then your direct reports, and I skip level all the time. And it's one, understanding what are those other loads that are sitting on everybody, and also recognizing with empathy, I've got stuff that I have to deal with my family. They have things that they've got to deal with their family. They have obligations. I have obligations. And it is being honest about directionally, here's where I think we're going, and here's how we're going to, but here's how we're going to behave as we get there. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be open with you. I'm going to tell you what the obstacles are. We're going to have direct conversations about whether or not those expectations are being met, and we'll do that individually. It's treating folks with trust and respect, which gets back to what we talked about last time, which is if they need to take a couple extra hours in the middle of the day to take their dad to hospice care or something like that, take the time to do what you need to do in order to come back fully loaded. But it comes from trusting that, one, that person does still want to be there, and two, they need to trust you that you're not going to use whatever's happening in their personal life against them to drive some sort of business agenda or work agenda. Because we all have crap that comes up. I expect you to bring your professional self to the office, but I also know that when I've had an argument with my wife, I suck at work because I'm thinking, oh man, I know I was wrong, but because whether I was right, I'm wrong. But it's recognizing that we all have those things, and that's why it's important to have that sort of recognize when you're loading the system and make sure that there's a conscious approach to giving those breaks and alleviate the pressure inside the system. So you have to, but it's not the same for every person. Some people can go 24/7, 365 for 2-3 years and then they're burned out, and other folks it's just a much more steady approach, and you have to balance that depending on the.
So here, yeah. Here's what I think we need to, I deeply believe we need to embed into organizations at any level. I'm talking about nonprofits, profits, you name it. First of all, let's work from the recruitment point of view. First of all, I'm going to go to the current status, but I'm going to start at the recruitment.
Okay.
I think we should tell people right from the beginning when they join that we don't know, right now you're hired for this role, but we don't know how long it's going to be. And you know what? No promises. We may come over and talk to you tomorrow and tell you, we've decided to eliminate that role. But here's what we can promise you. Number one, this is how we're going to treat you. This is how we're going to give you some protection when it happens. We're going to cover your health care for a period of time. Yeah. We're going to give you a decent severance. We're not just screwing you over. Now, and I know some organizations maybe in, near bankruptcy can't do that. Okay, those are anomalies. But in most cases, you've got some room. But first of all, just tell people up front, you know what? We hope you're here for a long time, but none of us know. It could be a short time. So just recognize that's an agreement we have. You bring your best. We'll give you our best shot. One day you may leave. We're going to embrace you. Tell us. We're going to help you go. One day we're going to maybe ask you to leave. We're going to embrace you and we're going to help you go. That's one. With current organizations, I think we should stop the lies. So it's part of your honesty comment, Dave, but it's the other side. Stop lying.
Yes.
Stop pretending that you can bring that psychological safety and no layoffs go together. You can have a psychological safe organization, which means I may come into your office tomorrow and say, we've had to eliminate your job. And so don't use psychological safety as a crutch to say somehow because that's a lie. Because we don't know. We just don't know. No CEO today knows enough to be able to plan for what that's going to look like because of you're working on AI right now. And you know what? It's probably going to change the way you work. It may even eliminate your role. So if that happens, here's what we promise you will happen. You're not going to get a call in the middle of the night. We're not going to perp walk you out of the building. We're not going to just eliminate so you can't even reach your friends. We're going to be much more considerate. There are egregious situations where someone breaks the law or someone does something that's illegal and immoral.
Those are anomalies.
Those are anomalies. But generally, this nonsense about you're going to get a text message and you're gone and come pick up your stuff in
we'll
the
send
box.
you a Zoom recording of your departure. Well, that's kind of what I meant when I said, I'm not 100% sure where this ends or what this looks like, but we know how we're going to treat each other. We know how we're going to behave as we go through that. And being clear on that and being true to that,
I think the second rule is that you cannot use HR to communicate your layoffs.
No, if we're talking about layoffs, that's a chicken shit way to do it.
100% it is. Yes, HR's got an important role to play. They can provide the some more support mechanisms to that. But sending in the clowns kind of thing, that's a song, I think. I don't know, doesn't matter. But like, and I'm talking to some former chief people.
Wasn't Joan Collins, wasn't that, what was her name? The woman who said,
I don't know, Dave. No one here would reckon it wasn't Bad Bunny. But I'm a chief people officer, so I'm saying that with respect to my colleagues. It's just a crutch. It's like, step up, be the leaders we need to be honest with people, treat them with respect. And you know what? My view is that people will do the right thing and participate if they have an idea what the rules of the game are.
Yes.
When they don't and they get fearful, that's when all the crazy bad stuff happens.
The craziness happens because all of us catastrophize.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have to do a layoff, everybody there's the three constituencies, right? But when you have to do the layoff and the folks that are staying, the first thing they're doing, if you haven't been good at communicating and if you haven't been good at talking about directionally where we're going and why this happened, and if you haven't been good at that, their first action is to update their resume and to start. The folks that you really want to keep, they're the ones that are out looking for work on their own because they're not going to wait for the other shoe to drop. And they're
definitely they're going to go home and they're going to say, you're not going to believe what happened to so-and-so today, blah, 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 blah. We got to be, and I'm looking and that. And it's a really interesting kind of a situation because, sometimes the market around you is like, sucks. Like right now, if you're a software developer, it's not like you're going, hey, you know what? Amazon's going to lay me off and Meta's going to pick me up.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And so it gets tricky. However, I think if we are really, really genuinely, respectfully honest with people and provide them a little bit of room and runway, they find a way to navigate forward and they participate in doing what's right. And anyway,
I've had to do it a couple times, Lorne, and not that I want to be in the room, but I'm always in the room and I'm the one who delivers a message.
100%, Dave. It's got to be the way, and I'm the same way. And it's like, this idea, I don't care how big you are, the idea of sending like a pre-record, this kind of stuff, it's like, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth, the whole thing around how we treat human beings.
The thing that I think about is, so once you've made the decision to say, these are the folks that we're going to be laying off, then my mindset shifts, and how do we treat them with respect? How are we going to do that messaging? And then I shift over to, how do I treat these people so that the ones who stay know that we treated them with respect and that we treated them professionally and that we treated them in a way that honors them and the role that they played in getting us to where we are today. And when you have to do a layoff, 9 times out of 10, it's not the fault of the people that you're letting go.
No, it's not.
Something has changed. And so
yeah.
Then I move over to the constituency of the folks that are staying, and I'm most of the time just as careful or more careful with the messaging and the communication that happens with the folks that are staying. I'll often do one-on-ones with key members, depending on the size of the organization, just to help them get their questions out, get their fears out. Dump it on me and say, you guys screwed this up. You guys made the wrong decision. That's my job. I'll take it. Let's get through this so that we can comfortably not comfortably, but so that we can start building something going forward. And then I've got to rebuild trust and rebuild excitement and momentum and those things. But really, I really think the way you treat the folks that are exiting is going to be received by and heard by and understood by the folks that are remaining. Did they treat them fairly? Did they treat them this way? Because I know I'm going to get screwed too if they don't,
Yeah, exactly. When in 2012, when I became the chief people officer, unbeknownst to me taking the role, the CEO and the board asked me to take out $25 million and 325 people. And I'm going, oh, this is great.
Welcome, Lorne. Here's your desk. Yeah, here's your office, and here's your goal. Yeah.
And I stood in front of a bunch of people and said, look, we're going to become the best place to work in Canada, which we did eventually. And I said, unfortunately, the 30 of you won't be here. This is by the HR community. And so we did take out that many people. But one of the things, and the market helped us a little bit because it was a very buoyant employment market, but we built a plan of one for every single person. Like so there was a cap, we were a bank, so we had good resources to manage a decent, respectful layoff offering.
Yeah.
But we built a plan of one. So in some cases, people took more money in the form of retraining.
Yep.
In some cases, people took just as flat out cash severance. In some cases, people took an extension to their health care. Like we had a plan of one, and we had not one single, like a lot of people didn't like it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't, I mean, they wanted to stay. They didn't want to leave. However, we never had one situation where we had a litigation but more importantly, we had people that felt like we really gave consideration to their individual situation and gave a plan of one.
Yeah.
And I think it taught me a really good lesson because you're right, Dave. It was important for those 325 people, but it's really important for the 5,000 other people that were watching what the hell was going on around going, well, that's an indication around I'm going to be treated. I just think we can do a lot better than what we've had. And I hope the leaders that are listening to this, as you're going through AI, you're giving consideration to this as you're going to embrace this new kind of version of technology that's going to change the way people work, that you just don't fall into this, we'll send a note out on Friday afternoon and it's all done and I feel better. And, you got to pull the Band-Aid off kind of nonsense because I think that is just a cop-out for treating people poorly.
I think it's chicken shit, and what you're telling the rest of the organization is, and as soon as it's expedient, it's going to happen to you, and this is how you're going to hear that message. So you better warm up your resume. And I don't care how cold the market is for hiring talented folks. Those folks, there are other opportunities out there, and there will be. And there's you have to think about the folks that are staying as much as you think about how quickly do I want to get through this. That's usually about you. I want to get this over with as quickly as possible. I don't want to look somebody in the eyes when I have to let them go. So here's an idea. I'll just record a message and I'll have chat write it, and then I'll just everybody. And then that'll be good enough because I don't have time to deal with the past. I'm focused on the future.
Yeah, no.
You will screw your future if you screw this up,
You know what? That leads to kind of another question around. I love to put potential leaders a little bit. I don't mean to put them on the spot, but I love to ask them that question when I'm interviewing them. So if you just come to this organization, we got to take out 10% of the workforce. Give me your game plan around how you do it. And a lot of times you'll see eyes get about that big, but it'll tell you a lot about, do they even have a thought process around, the obligation that goes along with. Anyway, it's an important topic. It really ties into the value of deep respect that we need to have, which doesn't equate that we're not going to ask people to leave because we know that's not real.
It's unfortunately reality. And whether it's performance-based or because as you're raising the ceiling and you're raising the floor, there are some folks who are just not going to make it. You have to have those.
Absolutely right. And you know what? I think the worst thing you can do is try and develop, because it's not that they don't have the ability one way, maybe eventually get there, but you're not going to take someone and you go, I'm going to put 2 years into developing you to do this when I need that skill right now. You might move them somewhere else to work on something else they're good at.
Yeah.
But the lie that you're going to go, I'm going to send you to MIT so you can learn, no, anyway, you're absolutely right. It's a huge bucket to get better at anyway for us. So the idea that it's a great podcast, Dave, because we're talking about uncertainty and navigating constant adaptability and changes of just a nature of a practice that we need to have as leaders. And we really need to be good and respectful around how we ask people to stay and how I ask people to leave and how I ask people to contribute. Yeah. And we have to have really good practice for doing it.
Yeah.
And thanks for kicking this can around with me on this, because I think about this all the time.
Yeah, I like your plan of one. I think that gets to almost anything around transformation, whether it's letting folks go or even keeping them. Let's talk about what this transformation means for you and what this.
Yes, Dave. I ask leaders and say, on this speech I give around leaders in the mirror, and I give them an action, sort of 5 or 6 actions they can take.
Yeah.
Have a plan of one. Sit down with everybody on your team. I mean, everybody's got a direct report, and say, how do you want to participate in this? What is your expectations? How do I help you?
What questions do you have for me?
What questions do you have for me?
Let's get that underlying fear or anxiety or the catastrophizing that people do. Let's get that on the table and let's talk about it. Because you also have those fears, right?
Exactly.
Performing, the board's going to come to me and say, "Thank you so much. Good luck in your next job."
Yeah, and
wonderful.
when I'm talking to one of my direct reports, and that person looks at me and says, Lauren, I'm kind of scared shitless because of this. You know what my reaction is? Me too.
Yes.
I mean, I have confidence, and I could believe we're going to do it, but I've got anxiety about this too. I mean, I want to do this right. I want to be, blah blah blah, da 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 da. I mean, there's a humanness that goes along with this. That I mean, if everybody just has a swagger, goes, well, I'm not worried about this. It's all going to turn out just great.
Well, when somebody says that, I know they're full of shit. That's for sure.
I mean, there are going to be bumps and blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
great combo. It's part of our humanness as we kind of embrace more of all this new fancy digital technology and everything else. And it's kind of exciting times, though, Dave, right? And
It's like going to the
what?
moon. It's like when computers happened. It's like when you got your first fax machine, Lauren, or you got that cell phone in a
Yeah.
bag. Everything's changing, and it'll be different but we still have to treat people with respect and honor and trust. So
Yeah. And I've got 2 red cards I'm giving. Or back to FIFA. 1 red card is if you're still dealing with transformation as a one-time event, then you get a red card. And as a leader, if you are thinking about it being that's something that you can delegate and not model, you get a red card. So those are my red cards. And
I'm looking for a
just
red card. I
complete the
don't have any
FIFA
red
thing.
cards. I don't have anything red.
Well, you know what? You could give a yellow card too. But anyways, hey, Davey. Until next time, huh? We got this fun.
Thanks, Lauren.
Hey, good travels to Vegas,
Oh, thank you, sir.
and we'll look forward to our next chat.